great to be here with a huge number of the Syrian community and in Chicago. I've been here in Chicago a year ago with a meeting for a Syrian community with 5 people show up, 3 we were out of Chicago. So now I see we get more sympathy from people as the revolution is heading in the right way and we're getting more people involved. And the number of the people who have contacted us trying and offering their help and their efforts in order to help the revolution and the people inside Syria is growing day and day. I don't really have a lecture as well. I have a couple of talking points. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on each one. First of all, I want to start with the importance of starting from Daraa. Why it was a good point to start from Daraa for the revolution. What's happened before in 2004, I went to Qamishli after the Qamishli protest happened in 2004. It was a soccer game and a fight happened between a team from Deir ez-Zor and a team from Qamishli, and then it ended up with violence between Arabs and Kurds, and the government encouraged this violence and to crack down people and killed 43 persons in 2004, arrested 312, kept them for 2 or 3 years, and then President gave them an amnesty a couple of months before they finished their sentence. And now that's seriously what's happened. And I met some of them in Adra prison later in 2005. Daraa is known as a city where lots of army and military leaders are from Daraa. We have the Vice President Farouk al-Shara himself from Daraa, Faisal Maqdad from Daraa, and lots of figures, international important people in the Syrian government are from Daraa. If this revolution have started in Qamishli, the government would use the same excuse. They're trying to separate, they're trying to get their own state, the Kurds people, and they're going to crack them harshly. And if it started in Hama or Aleppo, we're going to use the Muslim Brotherhood excuse again to kill those people. But starting from Daraa, from the south, that abolish any excuse that government could use against the people in order to accuse them of being even Muslim Brotherhoods or trying to get their own state or separate. And this number of officials in Daraa helped a lot that nobody can try to play in Daraan people patriotism or nationalism. What the revolution have achieved so far? If we can compare what's happened in 80s and now, I haven't even been born in 80s, but what I've heard, I tried to research about the Hama massacre and I get with nothing, not even pictures. Versus we're the first news in almost every channel, almost all languages, almost all newspapers around the world. The revolution in a couple of months have managed to achieve a lot of the work. We have fighted a lot before. In 2004-5, I went to prison the first time. Someone, Radwan, knows very well. Yassin al-Hamu, he's in prison as well now because he was organizing Daraya protests, and he's one of the Daraya figures and leaders in Daraya suburb of Damascus. And in 2006, I went again to prison and I met lots of intellectuals there, Michel Kilo, Anwar al-Binni, Kamal Labwani, lots of big names. And we were complaining that time. We're ahead away from the people and the people not following. We're isolated, we're a small group, and we're very easy targeted by the government. They can arrest 15, 20, it's fine. No international reaction for those. And even if it's happened, it's going to be a slight statement or a very lame statement. We condemn the arrest for this political prisoner. But what's happened now started after Tunisia and Egypt, and starting after Libya and Yemen. It's clear it's a revolution. We are similar to those people. There's no way they are protesting for any other reason. And that's brought the government story down easily. They tried to say they're protesting for increasing salaries, for abolishing state emergency and state security court, and they achieved those for the people under the pressure by the street. It's the first time that the people achieved things in the street, and that was a point in Syria. We've never had something, we had it usually in the makruma way. Even our freedom, we had it as a makruma from the president, as a gift from the president. He's a nice guy, he gave us amnesty and released us from prison. So the revolution so far achieved a lot in terms of inside Syria, and I give the credit for the Syrian government and for the state-run TV and for the Dunya TV because they helped a lot in mobilizing people and bring them to the street by publishing or promoting this stupid propaganda about the protesters, that they are agents paid from Iraq, from Saudi, CIA, lots of different stupid styles, and that encouraged lots of people to go to the street. And the second point happened here. The government succeeded to change or to shift a small protest for releasing 15 children from school to a revolution against the regime. And that was a turning point. When the government started using power, they thought they're going to crack down those people, arrest tens or hundreds, and it's over. But seeing that the people in the street started chanting in the next week for Dar'a and all across Syria, mostly 10 the major provinces and lots of cities, that was a good point. That shows some sympathy for Dar'a, and people are not dead. No, they're watching and they're knowing what's happening. A point I want to mention it is most of us heard of Talal Melouhi, the 19-year-old female blogger. It was really amazing to see her name in Banyas and in Dar'a and in Hasaki. And then there's all Syria knows Talal Melouhi. That again defeated the government's argument that nobody knows those people, nobody knows the opposition. She's not even opposition, but she gets some news about her because her story was a sad story, and a lot of people aware about her. What the revolution managed to achieve right now, if we look 9 weeks back and we look now. And 9 weeks back we had Dar'a, the Omari Mosque, being stormed by the special forces or Unit 4 soldiers. And now we have a president and 13 members and the government members under sanction by the United States. And it's going to be sanctioned by the EU soon. The government lost Turkey, a good ally for them. They lost Al Jazeera, they lost Azmi Bishara, they lost Qatar, they lost lots of Arab intellectuals who condemned and cannot be silenced for what's happening now. And
they lost the Syria.
They lost Syria a long time ago.
And now recently Kuwait.
They lost Syria a long time ago, but we had not the courage to go to the street and tell them they don't have any legitimacy, and we had in those 9 weeks. And that's the difference. That brought the people to our side, because lots of people, seriously, they used to buy the story that the government, yeah, people lie with me because I'm anti-Israel, I'm anti-West, so I'm the good guy here and people loves me. And that shows that it's not about West or Israel. It's about our local domestic issues. So our dignity, our freedom, and so about life. When Rami Makhlouf has all those millions and people dying from poverty, and it's clear it's not about the foreign policy of Syria, regardless you agree or disagree with this foreign policy. The government did not manage to paint the protester by any color. Salafist extremisms, and they used a lot, and they really worked hard for that with no succeed. Yesterday, 2 days ago, when President Obama repeated the word peaceful, peaceful, it was clear that these YouTube videos managed to defeat the entire government story and the entire government propaganda. So we're heading the right way, and we achieved a lot. All the people that the government lost from their allies, they are now on the side of the revolution, on the side of the Syrian people. If they are not 100 supporters of the revolutionist demands of toppling the government, they are at least want right now to stop the bloodshed and stop the killing and get the tanks back to its places. A big difference between Hama and today, my thought is the government have done Hamas in this day standards. What's happened in Dar'a, it's 2011 Hamas.
People on the internet are saying that once there's something going on.
Yeah, sure. What's happened in Dar'a is 2011's Hama. The government used the excessive point they can use, and they failed. People protested the first week, after that, the second week, in Al-Hara'ir week, in Azadi week, last week. We have seen lots of people, and one of the examples was Talbisa and Homs. Talbisa got bombed heavily, merely because they destroyed the statue of the president. And the last week they hang a dummy with Bashar al-Assad face. So people, even they were aware that they're going to be bombed heavily or they're going to pay heavier price than before, they are continuing in this side. Why Syria is too much complicated, much more complicated than Libya, and much more complicated than other cases. In Libya and Yemen, it's a time matter. It's almost done. All the countries, even in the Gulf countries, calling Yemeni president to leave. All the international community, including Arab countries, they agreed to bomb Gaddafi tanks, not the Libyan, Gaddafi forces, which is paid forces from Chad and from other countries from Africa. But why Syria is much complicated? For 3 points. The way the government used the excessive power against people, that left nobody can be in the middle, in the gray part. You either with killing or not. You cannot be in the middle. Even those whose friend with Syria, such as Turkey, they couldn't be in the middle. They gave some statements in the first, encouraging the president to stop the killing. But then Erdogan has to say, when it's going to happen, this killing going to happen, we are on the side for the Syrian people, and we cannot stand against their demands. The second thing is the sectarian view in Syria. It's not a view, the sectarian situation in Syria. We don't have sectarian feelings in Syria, which is great. I lived in Lebanon where I studied there, and where students be named secretly, yeah, he's Sunni, she's from X area, and he's Christian, he's Maronite. But we don't have it really in Syria. But the government are trying to incite the sectarian sentiments inside Syria now. They did that in Al-Baida when they encouraged the Shabiha, when they encouraged the Shabiha to go attack the people. We know them all. They are paid smugglers, drug smugglers, weapon smugglers. But the government, when they surrounded those cities, they on purpose did isolate the Alawite communities and try to bomb heavily the other communities. That's to encourage the sectarian sentiments inside the Sunni communities and other minorities. Scaring the minorities, the Christian and the Druze, that if this government or regime left, you will all be in hands of Sunnis, which is not true. The fact we will be in hands in Syrians. All the Syrians in Syria going to have the new Syria, not for anyone. And the third point, was much complicated, is heading for international community help. We have been doing this from the first steps, and I was among few with Radwan who had lots of meetings in Washington, and in all our media appear, we called for international, the UN Human Rights Council to issue a resolution to help Syrians, and we're pushing hardly for International Criminal Court to see those people prosecuted and then another step brought by the court. Those are three elements in Syria making the situation much harder to deal with, even from the opposition people, who thankfully appear to be very far from the streets, because these intellectual people, they are great. They paid heavy price in 80s, 90s. I met lots of them in prison during Bashar al-Assad era. But they have views in their minds, and they try to apply inside Syria, which is not working now. Dialogue now, after 1,000 persons get killed, it's a bullshit. And having intellectuals calling for that is not a smart thing, or trying to convince the people that we can have a dialogue now after at least 10,000 get arrested and being held, disappeared or held in secret prisons is not a wise idea. The government, again, bet was, we're going to finish those people easily, and they're not going to protest after they see the blood. They're going to see the videos, and they're going to see the tanks in the street, and they're going to hear the news from their Syrians fellow. What's happened is the opposite. People encouraged to go to the street more, because first of all they're watching what's going on in the media, and the second of all, they can understand easily we're achieving things and we're making more progress. In the 80s, everything happened, and we get some news about violence happening in Hama. Now it's daily, breaking news: 3 killed in Homs, 2 killed in Hama, couple injured in this area. People are watching their progress. They're paying heavy price for that, but they're watching the progress and they're happy with this progress. Having the president among people who's been sanctioned by the US and then hopefully by the EU next week is a good step, and it's a good progress. And that's why people